When I first heard Ben talking about wanting to go into the military, I was very surprised because Ben was fairly shy, kind of a homebody, and I was surprised that he was willing to leave and go to basic training and you know, take on that adventure.
So Ben joined the National Guard. He didn't know what he was going to do when, you know, he had a good head on him, but he, at that point in time, didn't want to know what to do. And so he says, I want to join. So we said, nah, don't sign anything. You come talk to us before you do anything. And then the next thing we know, he has signed up, you know, for 6 years.
For his 16th birthday, he told me that he wanted a dog. And so we said, okay, we'll start out at the shelters and see if there's any dogs that you seem to like. And the first shelter we went to, he saw the 2 girls that became his dogs. And, you know, I wasn't trying to push that on him. If he wanted a, you know, a pure breed, I was happy to get him a pure breed, but he absolutely fell in love with these 2 shelter dogs.
Yeah, so in 2012, he was attached to the 1072nd unit out of Fresno. I remember coming down when he left, and we, you know, we made an effort to come because we, you know, you never know what's going to happen. And so he went to Afghanistan, and he was in one of the bases out there. He was their medic.
Because he was a medic that was part of a military police unit, but they were attached to a transportation company. And to be real honest, I guess I wasn't that worried. I felt like as part of a military unit and a medic, he would be protected, and you don't want to think that something bad's going to happen, and that's not a place I wanted to go. And so I didn't really worry about him too much.
LPGs from that alleyway!
It's like every horrible film you've ever seen. You know, I've seen films from World War II where the 2 military personnel drive up to the door and tell the mom that that she has lost her son. And at the time, Salvador was working a job in Arizona, and about 9:30, 9:45, I get this knock on the door, and honestly, it was so late, I wasn't planning to open the door, but I saw the military uniforms, and I thought, oh, a couple of Ben's friends have stopped by, and I'll just chat with them for a minute. And of course, as soon as I opened the door, saw the Bible in the hand of the chaplain, which, you know, just your heart just drops. You know that this is not good. So that was obviously the hardest day of my life. Getting this nonprofit started really was a process. When we learned about Ben, one of the things that was really important to me was to connect with his friends, because his friends carry such an important part of his memory. And I didn't know that until we lost Ben. I didn't realize how important it was to know that people were carrying his memory, and they had different memories of him than what we had. So we invited his friends from the 184 in Modesto and just other school friends to meet with us, and so we could explain what had happened. And we thought there would be a dozen or so fellas that would come, and we met at a restaurant, brewery there in Turlock, and we ended up with about 50 people. And they began to share their memories of Ben and talk about Ben, and this idea of the dogs was part of that conversation. The vision is to have a kennel here on this location of kennel where we can bring dogs from shelters, where we can have a training facility for the advanced training, to have possibly a couple of cabins or housing for the veterans to stay in while they come and do their training with the dog. It usually takes 2 to 3 weeks to train the veteran how to work with the dogs. As we started working with people who are in the business of training service dogs, and hearing their stories of how the dogs are able to help the veterans relax, oftentimes bring them out of a PTSD episode. Over time, most of them are able to come off a lot of their medications. And then for veterans who have had trouble leaving their homes and going out in public, the dog then helps them to be able to integrate back into society in the public and go back to having a job or at least living a fairly normal life.
That's the time between the dogs and Ben. Ben wanted to do something with dogs. This is our version of what he wanted to do. Ben was so thoughtful and so sweet, and sometimes I think he worried about us a little bit with working so hard. But overall, he was a very compassionate person, a very caring person, and I know that he would be so pleased to know that his dream is being fulfilled in a slightly different way to help the people that he loved, because he really did love his brothers and sisters in arms.